why isn't the Green Party promoting these issues as strongly as they ought to, given that the other parties aren't?
Okay. Yeah, I think it's a very important question and something we should be talking about more, is about how the food we grow and the food we eat needs to be sustainable in the longer run. I'm sure it's something Kerry would like to talk about, given the amount of food that she grows and the amount of other people from the Green Party who grow their own food as well. I wish half the time I could get you canvassing a bit more than working on your allotments, to be honest.
Canvassing on the allotments.
Yeah. We have talked about the idea, and you'll see it in the Green Guarantee, that as we leave the European Union, if we leave the European Union, of having an Environmental Protection Act, which very specifically would deal with the issue of sustainable food and farming as well. I'm not a soil scientist and I don't have a huge amount of knowledge in that area, so I can't address your question on those parts specifically. But there are definitely opportunities around Brexit. If we do go forward with Brexit and the people, because we want to give people a say on the referendum, on the terms of the deal, if we go forward with an exit from the European Union, there are certainly opportunities for us to make sure that we're relocalising economies, so we're growing more locally and hopefully promoting more sustainable ways of producing things as well. And certainly we've also got the opportunity to reform policies like the Common Agricultural Policy that we're in as part of the European Union, which I think has got big opportunities around that. Specifically why we don't talk about it all the time, I think because it's something that's difficult to get out, it's something that's complicated to a lot of people and people don't understand a lot of what you would talk about there, so I think it makes it difficult to communicate with people. But we have to, you're right, we have to talk to people and explain why this is so important, so I would like to see more of it. In the short term, I like to talk about the environmental policies that are really beneficial for people and the planet to start with, as showing an example of how we can change things to benefit, like I say, both people and the planet, such as home insulation, such as more renewable energy, such as more public transport. But these are big important questions, and for example, we know that the whole world can't eat the same amount of meat as we do in the West and still have, a sustainable planet. So we do need to address them, and I don't think the other parties have got a focus on that at all. Kerry, would you like to say something?
Yeah. Well, I think we need to be thinking about food footprinting. Rob Hopkins from the Transition Movement did a food footprint for Totnes and started exploring that, and various other groups have done it. They looked at, say, the food footprint of London, which actually extends to Plymouth, and so we need to think much more clearly about how we're using land, and in particular in Cambridge, I think we need to be protecting Grade 1 farmland. We need to be protecting the green belt close to the city. I've been really sad about the expansion of Cambridge because I think we're losing, particularly in Trumpington, we've lost a lot of green belt land where we could be producing food. In the 1930s and 40s and 50s, every town had maybe half a dozen nurseries where they produced a lot of salad crops and a lot of the basic foods, and we need to think differently about producing sort of, things like grains and things like that. But certainly we could be producing an awful lot of the food that we need immediately. So I think I'd like to see a policy nationally. If Stuart was an MP, I would encourage him that every community has to have a food footprint. So we actually start looking at food footprinting. The soil, I think, is really, really important because it's the skin of the earth. It's a living being. It contains lots of small animals and microbes and funguses, and all those things promote food growth. I'm an organic grower, and I very rarely have pests, and I'm sure that's because of the way I work in the permaculture approach to growing, and I think it's because of the way I grow things. I mix food together a lot, lots of different food types together, and that's confusing for pests. And I think, with the eco agriculture, I think we should be looking at that much more. In terms of sequestering carbon, I think there's been a report out in the last 10 days saying that hedgerows are fantastic for sequestering carbon, and we used to have a lot of hedgerows in this country,
So it's very good for biodiversity.
Yeah, and it's extremely good for biodiversity. And I'm a founder member of an orchard project, and we've done a lot of hedge laying and planting of hedgerows, and also planting trees. So there are systems of agriculture where you can have rows of trees, and in between the rows of trees you grow crops. And then they've begun to look at that and shown that actually things like potato blight don't seem to come through the tree barriers. So there's lots and lots of things that we could do. And I'm always banging on about this. I wish more people would listen to me or come and ask me about it. This is something I feel very passionate about.
Thank you, Kerry.